After the epoxy and the seams cured overnight, I tipped the hull upright. Well, actually, I found for reaching inside, I tipped it up on its side here. It's sitting on one of the hard panels, one of the chines, and I just clamped it to hold it so I could reach inside, pulled the tape on the port side prior to cutting the wires. You can see the tape did a nice job. These seams look good on the inside. Later there's going to be a fillet on all these seams and then some fiberglass tape. Just show you what it looks like after the gluing. This is the stern right here, port stern. I've got the boat tipped towards me. But they look pretty good inside. Tape came off with no problem. Comes off just like this. And then this is the port bow going up towards the last step bulkhead right there and up to the stem. Pulled the tape on both sides of the stem because I could reach it. Once I pulled the tape off the seams, the next thing is to go in and cut all these wires. And I've gone in on both sides. This is the starboard side now. I've switched sides, but cut all these wires. You can see that one I pulled up a little bit. But I cut all the wires on the seams. I left all the bulkheads. And now I'll turn the boat back over and pull all these wires out from the outside. I already pulled all the stem wires because I could reach. And some of them down in the base of the stem there were pretty tight, so I wanted to make sure I could get them all out. So now I'll pull them all out from the other side. Here I've turned the hull back over, upside down, so that I can pull out all those wires that I cut from the inside. And I've gone ahead and done that all throughout the boat. This green tape here, that's a wire that broke, and so I just put the tape there to remind me to pull it from the inside. The bulkheads aren't glued yet. This is a bulkhead, those spots. So those are still wired up. Same with the other two bulkheads. But with the wires cut inside, it was easy to pull them out from the outside. So we'll just walk down here, show you the rest of these seams. Here's another bulkhead, the aft bulkhead. That'll get glued in a little later. Another piece of wire that I'll have to get from the inside. But it's nice, the boat's getting a little less prickly. It's quite something with all those wires sticking out. You have to be careful walking around. Stem looks messy, but remember, most of that's going to get cut off during a later step. In fact, the very next step, excuse me, is to put in the so-called inner stem, which is a little triangular piece that goes inside the boat and actually forms the stem. I'm getting ready to clean up the outside of the hull and fair the chines and get it all kind of nice and the way I want it to be before we glass it. Glassing won't happen for a little while. But the first thing I did was, after flipping the hull over, I had those spots in between where the wires were that I left open. So I filled those with a thickened epoxy mixture and just sort of troweled over the whole, all the seams, all three seams on each side. So this is, these are all pretty flush. The marks on the side are just where I troweled it off, the excess. So I filled these seams on each side all the way. I'll let that cure, and then next time I can get in here and clean up this hull. It's not going to take much because the hull panels are nice and fair. The chines are nice and straight and crisp. I'm really happy with it. So this shouldn't be a big job at all. It's very narrow where I'm scooching through here with this little table here. That's 1 tim wide right there. So that'll cure, and next time I'll clean that up and this boat's going to look a lot different. We'll take a walk around the boat now that I've done all the chine filling and sanding. Cleaned this up pretty well. There's a little fine tuning to be done inevitably, but looks pretty good. Still a few bulkhead places that need work. This is the mast-step bulkhead, these little holes. Those will have to be filled, I guess. And the main bulkhead is going to come out later. That's right amidships. So the wires are still there for that. The wires are also in place for the aft bulkhead. Part of that gets cut out later as well. Let's just take a little walk down the boat here, see how things are looking. Transom is flush now at the edge. This transom former can come off as soon as I tip the boat back up because the fillets are in place on the inside. So this outside seam, I'm going to fill this, and that'll eventually get cleaned up just like these chines. A little bit of fine tuning, as you can see. There's a low spot there, that kind of thing. But that's just minor touch-up. Overall, this hull is in good shape. Looks nice and fair. Chines are nice and straight. Nice facets between them. Just barely rounded over. So it's not a sharp corner. Just a little bit of a nice little curve, but still very distinct between the panels. And then on the other side, we'll take a walk down. Again, these wires here and these tongues sticking through, that's the aft bulkhead. Those wires will get removed eventually, fill those holes. These square openings in the bottom are for the skeg eventually. That gets installed later. Nice little curve up here. I don't know if it shows up on camera. Looks good to the eye where the bottom plank twists and meets the bottom of the hull and the stem. Just a nice shape to my eye. I like it. That's the design of the boat. It has nothing to do with me, but I like how it's just one of those places that's nice to work on. It's a pleasant curve. I like to see stuff like that. When the boat was upright, I filleted the aft bulkhead and the mast step bulkhead and removed the center bulkhead, which has some work to do and is paired with a second bulkhead that allows the boat to be split in half. So I turned the boat back over after doing that work and focused on these gunnels, which needed a little fillet along the hull edge there, and also I wet out the outer edge with some unthickened resin. So I installed this fillet all the way around. Used some of the extra now that the center bulkhead is out. I filled those hull seams where it had been. Also did the same thing at the aft bulkhead here, these slots. I put some of the excess fillet material from the gunnel in there. So I installed these fillets along both sides. And wet out the side with the end grain. The top looks like it's wet out, but that's just from me scraping off the excess fillet material, the excess epoxy. And again, I filled these slots where the aft bulkhead is installed. I cut out the center piece of that. You'll see that in other logs. And these are the seams where the main bulkhead was installed that I had left because there were wires in there, but that's gone now. And then the mast step bulkhead as well. Filled those slots.